not me, oh God. Yes. So we pray, oh God, right now that some ear will pop open and they will hear you. Hear that still small voice speaking to them, knowing that it's you, oh God, that's talking to them. It's not me, oh God, but it's you. Using me, oh God, to speak to someone today. Lord, I ask that you to get me out the way. Have your way, oh God. Holy Spirit, show up. Fill me with your spirit, oh God, that I would be able to be used by you so that your people would hear you and not just be hearers of your word, but be doers of your word. In Jesus' name, I thank you and I praise you, oh God. Amen. Amen. So we thank God for another Sabbath day. We thank God for each and every day that he wakes us up and gives us the right mind and come into his house and just be a part of his body and be a part of his family. Just be a part of, period. So I just thank God for saving me. I thank God for salvation. I thank God for showing up in my life when I needed him the most. And how he still shows up. Amen. And I just thank God for being God. I had a rough week, but got through it. Amen. In Jesus' name, got through it. Amen. God showed up, and I was happy about it. I thank God for our pastor, Reverend Dr. Clifford Wright Sr. in his absence. Amen. Our pastor, thank God for our first lady in their absence. Pray that they're somewhere relaxing and retreating and restoring and getting restored and revitalized. God is just doing something in them, you know. I just pray for them, and I thank God for them being the people that they are in Christ Jesus, because they give us the privilege of preaching while they're gone, and it's not something that we take lightly here at home church, because we know that other preachers wouldn't do that. So we thank God for them and their absence, and we thank God for the privilege of them allowing us to preach, allowing me, I should say, to preach today. And we thank God for our clergy and all those here, and especially my friends. Thank God for my friends. Thank God for my friends. Coming up on 24 years. We've been together 25 years. I said, boy, I thought we were going to be together those 25 years. God is good. You know, people say marriage. Yeah, marriage is first. You know, and I thank God for the work that we have put into our marriage. Amen. So I thank God for God being in our marriage. Remember my mother-in-law saying, the third party has to always be in there, has to always be a third string. Always keep your hand in God's hand. He told us that on our wedding day. I never forgot that. And we always do that because we know that we will get in the way. But with God in it, God has been bringing us a mighty long way. And I thank God for my marriage. Amen. I thank God for my mother, Mother Smith, who always knows when to call and knows when something's going on in our house. Always a mother, a nurturing mother to us all. I thank God for her. All of you guys here today, I just thank God for each and every one of my sisters and brothers here at Hope Church, visitors and all. I have a word that God has given unto me today from Luke 19. Luke 19, starting at the first verse. Luke, the 19th chapter, starting at the first verse. I'm going to read in the NIV version. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed the sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. And all the people saw this and began to mutter, He has stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is the son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." Amen? Amen. Today, the topic is, guess who's coming to dinner? There was a movie back in the day, and I was kind of just born in, but there was a movie that came out back in December 1967, starring Cynthia. It was a comedy and a drama, a classic. Some of you might have heard of it or seen it. It was budgeted at $4 million, but it grossed $56,700 million. There was a remake of this movie back in 2005 called Guess Who, starring Guess Who? Bernie Mac. These movies presented a racial aspect or a point about interracial relationships, but it does not matter if you're black or white. If you have a black or white fiance who you bring home to meet to your parents. This was the plot of those movies. But unexpected guests are not always a bad thing. The question is, are they saved? Do they know Jesus? Are they in a personal relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ? Yes, I understand if you're intelligent, just as Poirier was a doctor from a great family in Cali. But the question should have been, are you saved? I know you love my child, but are you saved? And if you're saved, when is the last time that you've been gone to church? Do you have a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching church home? What do you do in your church home? Are you a servant in the army of the Lord? These are the questions that should have been asked, but wasn't asked. But today we have a story. This story is not a story of the same, but of contrary. Guess who's coming to dinner? Jesus. What do you do when Jesus is near? Jesus came to Jericho and made his way through town. And Zacchaeus wanted to get a look at Jesus. Sometimes we just got to get near when Jesus is coming. We got to be close to where God is at. We need to be where Jesus is at. We need to just see Jesus, as our pastor said. I remember stories of Martin Luther King and Selma, Alabama, how my mother-in-law used to tell me how the people didn't want them to see Martin Luther King when he would come to town, and how he would march, and how they would have those marches, and how they were all for good reasons. But people who were of contrary didn't want, some people did not want them to even see him. And if they heard that they had saw him or went downtown to see Martin Luther King, that they would get fired. So she began to tell me how sometimes, you know, you have to take a risk. And this is what this is our story is about, because, you know, sometimes we want to be close to Jesus and we want to be near to him, but we don't want to take the risk to do that. You know, sometimes we have to break apart a tradition, and we have to break apart from others and just get to where we can see him. And so at this time, Zacharias was at a place in his life where he knew he was short. You know, sometimes we know we're short, we're not reaching the mark, and, you know, I want to be a little taller, I want to put on a couple of heels and make us a little taller sometimes. And, you know, he knew who he was. To the fact that the stream that he had to take a risk, and he had to get up in a tree that he knew was a high tree. Because during those times in that area was mostly palm trees. But he didn't climb into a palm tree. He climbed into a sycamore tree. And a sycamore tree was a rare tree. The sycamore tree was known for its strength, its protection, its eternity, its divinity. The sycamore tree was known for its longevity. It was known because it lasted a long time. The sycamore tree would grow tall at 75 to 90 feet high. It was as wide as 50 to 70 feet wide. He knew what he was doing when he climbed into that sycamore tree, because he knew for sure that he was going to get to see Jesus.
Yes, yes.
And so sometimes we have to do more than what we normally do to see Jesus. Sometimes we have to go into our secret closet. We have to go into a place where we know that nobody else is going to bother us. We have to go to a place where our mind can be clear, that we can understand and hear God clearly, and know that it's just us, me and the Lord.
Yes, yes.
We have to get to that place so we can still hear that still small voice that called us from the beginning, knowing that he's coming our way, knowing that he's already been calling us for a long, long time.
Yes.
So we have to get to that place of making a chance, taking a chance, and taking a risk.
Yes.
What nobody else would do, we have to do sometimes. If that means praying in the atmosphere on your job, where they say no prayer is you can't do that here, sometimes you have to pray. We had an incident on a job this week where we grabbed hands and started praying, because that's the only thing we know how to do.
Yes, yes.
Call on the name of Jesus. When things are going the way that they're going, and everything is the way it is, you need God's presence.
Amen.
In this world that we're living in today, and what's going on around us, we need God's presence.
Amen.
So not only do we need his presence, but God knows our presence. He knows us by our name. Just as he called Zacharias out of the tree, he knows that he has a divine appointment with us too. That he wants to come to our house. That he wants to be involved on our jobs. That he wants to be involved in our situations, our everyday decision making. God wants to be in that risk with us. He comes because he knows that the plans that he has for our life are real. That the things that he planned out and the things that he already instilled in us, those things are going to come to pass.
Yes.
Whether we want them to or not. God is coming. And he's going to make sure that the appointment is taken. We may try to change our appointment, cancel our appointment, rearrange our appointment. We might have things that come up that we, feel like are more important right now. But God has a way of showing up and allowing us to know that he's calling our name. God calls us by name. Just as Jesus called Zacharias out of the tree, Zacchaeus out of the tree. He knows where we're hiding to. He knows that we're looking to look on to him, just as he's looking to be with us. Yes. So we have to remember that when we hear him calling us out, that we have to answer him. And just as our brother Zach did, he jumped right out the tree and took Jesus right to his house. Yes. And he was happy about it. And he was glad that Jesus was coming to his house. Because, like I said, he was a tax collector. And not only just a tax collector, he was a chief tax collector in the region. And at that time, they were robbing people. They were taking from people. They were doing things that he knew wasn't what God would want him to do. But we have to remember his name is pure and innocent. Sometimes we get put in positions on our jobs, in position, not just the position, the title, but in the position that we have to do things that we're not proud of and we know that God is not pleased with. And we have to know that there is a way out.
Amen.
And Jesus is the way out.
Yes. Yes.
He is the change. He is the one that is going to transform and change our season. Whether we have to retire or we have to let things go or we have to speak up even when we don't want to.
Yes.
God will give us the boldness to do exactly what we need to do in order to take the risk to be with him. Seasons change, and so do people. People did not fully understand why Jesus went to his house. Isn't this the one who just healed the blind man? Isn't this the one who was going just to Jerusalem? He was coming through. He was just passing through. Why is he stopping at his house? And this is what people say about us. Why is Jesus in their house? the notorious one?
Yes.
When they just listening to the notorious one? Why them? Don't they got a whole lot of sin? Don't they do a whole lot of sinning over the weekend? And here they go going to church. Who is that? You know how people are. They be with you one day, next day they shade.
Yes. Yes.
They measure your sin, but they ain't measuring their own. They're looking at what you done did, what you did, who you was with, this and that. But then, who is it that measures sin? How do we measure sin? I thought all sin was the same. Sin is sin. Whether it's a big sin, little sin, I don't know how you're going to measure that sin, but sin is sin. Isn't it Jesus who wrote in the sand and told them which one of you without sin? That's the first song. We all got something. And if there's anybody that tells you they don't have nothing, ain't nothing wrong with them, and God ain't working on nothing in their life, get away from them. I'm telling you. Because the only one that don't have something that God is working on in their life is in heaven. That's when we all going to be pure. We all going to be in a place where there's no growth. When we got to the place where we are in heaven, that's where we're longing to be. But we all have stuff. We all have things that we're working on. We all have something that God is dealing with us on. Not that we have to keep sin in our life, not that we have to have sin, but there's some things that we struggle with, each one of us. And God is dealing with us individually, let alone collectively. So that's why we're here for one another in the body of Christ. Amen? Amen. So who determines how big a sin really is? People will talk about Jesus. Just as they talked about Jesus being in his house, they're going to talk about you. In John 15, I love it because Jesus tells us, you know, they did all that to me. You think they're going to do it to you? Are you kidding me? Just as they spat on him and beat him and talked about him and did all that stuff, sometimes we get shocked. And I love our first day because she said, don't be shocked. Don't be shocked. Because people are capable of anything. And you don't know a person's heart. Only God knows their heart. And so we have to be very careful. Because the Bible tells us, don't judge. Don't judge other people. Because the same thing, you know, sometimes you clean your eyes and you look at your eyes and you say, man, something in my eye. The same thing that's in your eye can be in somebody else's. So we have to be careful about judging others. And when people expect Jesus to come, they don't expect him to come to your house. And I don't know why not. Because we all fall short to the glory of God. But sometimes people could be jealous and envious. And then even covet. Feelings of this privilege. They feel as if they're more privileged than you are. Then why would God go to their house and not mine? They might say it, but sometimes people feel that way. And so we have to remember that there will be some grumbling and there will be some complaining about your relationship with Jesus. People will be jealous of your relationship with Jesus. People will be envious of your relationship with Jesus, especially if he's elevating you into new positions. There will be some envy. There will be some jealousy. But the thing is, they did it to Jesus, so why not you? They will never see your heart. They will never know your heart unless they get to know your Jesus. How do you receive a guest like Jesus? How are you in Jesus' presence? Zacharias became very pure and very innocent, just as his name did. He began to start telling Jesus about the things that he needed to change. He was willing to give up half of his wealth. He was willing to correct his wrongs. And he said, if he cheated people, and then you know right there when they say, if I did it, you know he did. Anytime somebody say, if I did anything wrong, you know they did something wrong. So he knew that he had cheated people and that he became wealthy over cheating others. So he was willing to give back 4 times as much. This is true repentance. When you're willing to not only change, first admit what you've done wrong, and change what you've done, and then correct it, that's true repentance.
Yes.
And so Jesus was aware of what Zacchaeus was saying to him. Jesus was listening to what he was saying to him. And when Jesus approves of your behavior, his assessment is all you need. Sometimes we look for others to forgive us for things that we have done. And sometimes they will never forgive us. They will never forgive us, let alone forget. But it's not for them, it's for us.
Yes, yes.
When we ask someone to forgive us, and we ask someone that, that we have wronged to forgive us for something that we have done to them, we're not doing it because we're looking for them to do something in exchange. We want them to accept our forgiveness and our apology. But what we're really doing is unto God. So in order to love you the way that I really love you, to say that I love my neighbor, I really have to love you in such a way that I will humble myself and say, I'm sorry if I did anything to hurt you. I'm sorry if I did anything or said anything that was wrong that made you feel some kind of way. I don't know sometimes what I said or did that did it to you, but if it was anything, I apologize. And so we have to be able to do it because we love the Lord. We want God to forgive us. We want God to be in our corner when we have to have forgiveness from Him. So we have to remember that when we are asking for forgiveness for others, that it's not unto them. Even though we're waiting for them to respond sometimes, and they don't. We look for God. Because there's going to be a time when we're going to need God to forgive us. And so when we asking Him, we're really asking unto God. That God forgive us. God do something in my life to change the way that I am. That's what we're really saying. That I don't want to be the same way that I was. That I want to change what's going on in my life. I want to correct this thing because I know that not only does it hurt me, that I hurt others, but it hurts you. And so, Lord, I want to be pleasing in your eyesight. I want to be able to please the Lord. I don't know about you, but I want to be able to please God in such a way that when I see Him face to face, He tells me, job well done. My good and faithful servant. So when we're here on earth, this is the stage that He has set before us. That we will be able to be approved by Him. That our behavior will be assessed by Him. That out of this world we will receive eternal promises. That we will be inclusive. That it will be able to have what He said, salvation. But we will be able to not only have salvation, but that our household will be covered. And that we will be able to do what it is that's pleasing to God so that He would not only do it to us, but to our family. Yes. I don't know about you, but I love the fact that God said, because you are saved, the whole house will be saved. Because that's hope right there. If you have loved ones who are unsaved, people in your family that don't believe, that's hope for you. That's a promise from God. That they too will be saved. That they might think they're going and doing their thing on Saturday and whatever they're doing. You know, we was once there, but now we're here. And God is showing us the same things that we did. Now look, they're going to be doing the same thing that we used to do. They're going to be changed and they're going to do the things that God has called them to do. So we have to believe what God is saying to us. So we don't see. We see them, but we don't see them as we see them. Does that make sense? So I see my nephew in detox. I see him in rehab. I see him there, but I don't see him there, if that makes sense to you. Yes. I see him here in the church. I see him saved. I see him serving the Lord. I see him playing the drums in the church. I see him telling people about what God did for him, delivering him, how God allowed him to be found on the street. I see how God used him in the prison cells and how he sang and how he did things for others. I see him as a different way that others may say he may be there, but that's not where he's at. So we have to look at others in a way that God looks at us. We may not see them there now, but God knows where they're going. And we have to pray that we will see them there too. So salvation not only comes to you, but it comes to your whole house. That your family too will serve the Lord in gladness. That they too will be glad to honor Jesus as their guest. That they too will be able to be called the descendant of Abraham and to show ourselves to be true to God and true to all those things that he promised Abraham in the Old Testament about his faith will be the testimony of your family, of you, that you too will have a covenant with God, that you too would not break the covenant, but that you would sacrifice your own son on the altar for God, that you would have the faith of Abraham and not just be the son and daughters of Abraham. So Jesus is telling this to him, and I could just imagine, I would have just fell on my face if he was telling me all this, because this is what we want for our people. This is what we long for our own lives, let alone for our people. And when he spoke to him, Jesus spoke of himself and said, the Son of Man. He called himself right in front of him, the Son of Man.
Yes, yes.
And he came to seek and to save those who are lost. So who is the lost? And why do they need to be found? And when you were found, how do you know? So the question is about salvation, about those who are expecting a relationship with Jesus Christ. Because God longs, he longs for us to be in a relationship with him. He longs for us to invite him into our home, invite him into our hearts, into our minds, into our situations, our circumstances. Just as we come every week to the altar, he longs for that every day. Amen. For us to be in his presence. That's why the curtain was ripped. So that every day we will be able to be in relationship with Jesus Christ in such a way that he will offer us a way out. Amen. So we would no longer be lost in this world, but that we are found. This is he would go after the one, that he would go after us, the one who needs to know that he is the way, the truth, and the light. So the sycamore tree was in a rare place at a rare time. It said the sycamore tree really wasn't known to be in Israel, but it just was there at that time when there was a need for it. And so usually it will be found in what's called the lowland or Egypt. And so sometimes we find ourselves out of a place of fellowship with God because we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. But here we find that Jesus comes through in the nick of time, just when I call him Zach needed that change in his life. And I remember this story. I'm going to try to tell it better than I told it before. But there was a story before Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff came out. It was only email back then. And people would email you a story. And so there was a story that came out years ago. And I'll never forget it because it blew my mind. And the story was about a woman who had received a note in her mailbox. Yes, a mailbox. She had received a letter in her mailbox. And in her mailbox, this note said, "I will see you at 6 for dinner." So she didn't know who it was from because they didn't sign anybody's name. But she went to work and did her normal thing, you know how we do. And by the end of the day, she remembered, let me write a list, because I think I better stop at the store on the way home. Because you know we have to have those certain things when we know certain people are coming to dinner. So she went on to the grocery store and picked up the items that she felt like her house needed, you know. She probably had Kool-Aid and no sugar, and, well, you know how we do. But anyway, she went to the store, and she got the things that she needed. And so she was walking home, and she was approached by one person that she did not really know them well, but she knew that the sincerity of their heart and what they were saying to her was the truth. Well, they began to tell her the story about how they didn't have any milk for their baby, and how the baby needed milk, and how they needed to get a job, and how they couldn't get a job, and they couldn't keep a job, and you know those people we run into sometimes coming out the store. And so she ran into one of those folks, and they started telling her a sad story, and she felt like they were sincere about it, and so she had milk in her bag. She gave them milk. So she's going down the street, the next thing you know, she runs into somebody else. Next person she runs in tells her, my kid's hungry. We need some cheese, we need some bread, we need some kind of grilled cheese or something. You know how we feed our kids. Give some grilled cheese and some juice or something, just to hold them over to the night. So she said, I'm having a guest. You know how we do. I'm having a guest. What you want my stuff? I gotta give all my stuff away. I gotta get home with my stuff. So she goes on and look at her bag. She said, okay, I'm gonna give you my cheese. I'm gonna give you the milk. I'm gonna give you the juice and for the kids. So she gets almost to the house and she realizes she carrying almost an empty bag. She said, all I have left in this bag is paper goods. And what is this going to do to feed my guests? Well, she gets in the house and she begins to pray. She said, Lord, I need to fix something. You know how to do. We find something in this house to fix. There's sure nothing here for no guests. And so as she's praying, the Lord speaks to her and said, did you feed the baby that was needing some milk? And she said, yes, Lord. He said, well, did you feed the family that was in need of something to eat that day? And she said, yes, Lord. He said, well, you fed me. That was your guess. Those are the ones that I want you to look after. When you feed the least of those, when somebody's hungry, when somebody's sick, when you do that, you do that unto me. And so she felt so relieved that she didn't have to worry about what she was going to feed the guests, because she had done what God had told her to do. She took a risk, willing to give up what she had bought for her guests. She was willing to give to those who were in need along her way. And isn't that what God is telling us to do? To be there for others, to be able to take a risk for Him, to love our neighbors in such a way that we love them. So this is the story. That's it. That's the end.
Amen.
And just as that is the end of that, that's the end of the sermon. We can stand to our feet. Perhaps you came today and you're like, okay, I'm here, Lord.